again. This is Satan's Trilogy, Book 3, Chapter 6, and reading 104. I am the author and the narrator. Sit back, relax, let the story unfold. As the girls finished changing into their costumes, a knock on the door sounded and two women walked in. They both looked uninteresting, and they both carried a large makeup box. They looked at Day and Esther and singled them out to sit into a chair close by. For nearly 30 minutes, the makeup was applied as the girls said little. The twins watched during the transformation and were showing excitement as the time passed. The two women finished at nearly the same time, closed their cases, and looked at each other's work. Smiling at each other, the two ladies nodded in full agreement. They had captured what was asked of them. Walking away, one lady said to the other something in a European language. Esther recognized it as Hungarian. "You did well, sister." The other lady responded, "I am pleased with our work." They left through the door and didn't bother saying a word to anyone in the room. Day and Esther looked at each other, pleased with what they saw. They then both turned to the mirrors on the wall and were amazed. Day's face was angelic. She was married to the Gothic look with a softness that only angels could express. She showed strong Oriental features with lips that were colored with reds of soft roses, and in the center of her lips a line of pink that seemed foreign and yet belonging. Day was pleased with her appearance for the night's events. Esther, standing close to Day, was studying her own facial transformation. For the first time in her life, Esther looked Chinese. The makeup had transformed her eyes into those of an Asian. The Gothic makeup applied softly was only a slight distraction from her wonderful blonde hair that seemed to fly behind her, even while standing still. Esther didn't care about her hair, she was studying her eyes. Esther, for the first time in her life, looked Oriental. She had to process thousands of thoughts that ran through her mind as she studied her face in the mirror. A rush of satisfaction had run through her body. Esther now turned to the night's events. "Day," said Esther, "tonight you can have all of the fun you want, but please remember that the performances are for entertainment. We don't want to send anyone to the morgue." Day had quickly changed her train of thought to what Esther was saying. Satan and his entourage would need to be dealt with firmly, but not to the extent of finality. Day smiled at Esther. "All right," Day said as she smiled at Esther. "We'll just send a few people to the hospital tonight." Day smiled and added, "Only those in Satan's entourage, of course." Day grinned as she studied her sister's face. Esther stood and said, "Works for me." Esther smiled. "Walk with the devil, lose with the devil." The twins were listening and truly amazed at their transformation. Day and Esther both looked not only older, but more threatening. The twins saw it and both decided not to comment on it, equally decided, though, independently. Esther moved her gaze to the twins. "We should go to Bo Jackson now." Day turned to the twins and waited for a response, as did Esther. Danielle Elizabeth smiled. "He is just 6 doors down the corridor." I think that he'll be impressed with the two of you." The girls left the room, Tracy Ann leading the way. Dave followed, then Esther, and finally Danielle Elizabeth. Tracy Ann knocked on the door, and quickly it opened. Bo Jackson stood there, tall, impressive in every way conceivable. He represented the perfect physical specimen for mankind. Seeing it was Tracy Ann, he took a step back and smiled. "You look great," said Bo, as he watched the three other girls follow Tracy into his dressing room. "You all look great," he added. Esther stood in the center of the room. She had already taken in the entire exercise area to the left. "Bo, you haven't prepared for the match," said Esther as she gazed at him. "What do you mean?" Bo asked. "You need to pump up your muscles, fill them with blood," said Esther. "I have already done my preparations for the match," said Bo. Esther took one step closer to Bo. "Then you need to start over. I don't see a man that can impress the audience, let alone Satan." Bo hesitated. The twins had told him of Esther's abilities. Bo had witnessed her pushing Satan out of his room with little effort. Bo grinned. "All right, let's start over." He then grinned some more at Esther as he moved his massive body towards the free weights in the room. Shoulders, chest, back, quads, calves, and then arms. "We have little time, and so let's not waste any." Esther moved down the racks of dumbbells to the 200-pound dumbbells and said, "2 sets of 12 with a short break between." Bo grabbed the dumbbells and pushed them over his head 12 times. He was sitting on a bench with the dumbbells on his knees. Esther waited a few moments, then said, "Again, use better form." Bo pressed the weights over his head, and by the time he reached 12 reps, his muscles allowed the weights to drop to the floor. Esther moved quickly to the bench press and added 100 pounds to the bar, which already had 6 50-pound weights on it. "I want to see 10 reps and 2 sets with a short rest." Esther stood behind the bar as a spotter. Bo went to the bench, sat down, and leaned back. Slowly he lifted the weights off the stand and began to press them. 10 reps, and Bo placed the bar on the rack. Esther waited about 18 seconds and said, in a demanding voice that Bo felt compelled to submit to, "I want 10 more reps in your best form." Bo did just that. It was something he had never accomplished before. Esther took Bo through 2 reps for each muscle group at his maximum effort. When finished, Esther pulled a curtain back and told Bo to look at himself in the mirror that had been hidden. Bo was impressed. His muscles had never looked so impressive and full of blood. Their size was at least 12% larger, if not more. Bo's confidence was now peaked. "I look as large as Satan," Bo said as he flexed his muscles. Esther was standing in front and off to the side of Bo as he admired his own body in the mirror. "You look magnificent," Esther smiled. "Tonight you can defeat Satan, but you must have a plan." Bo turned to Esther and listened. At the same moment, Dave pulled the curtain shut and went back alongside the twins. "Satan is strong and he hits hard. You are strong and you are a wrestler. You must avoid Satan's punches and use your technique to throw him about. Wear him down, and then, when he is exhausted, do whatever is necessary to rob him of his breath and to pin him." Esther walked up to Bo and told him to his face, "You should win tonight. You will win tonight, and nothing can stop this from happening." Bo went wild and started yelling, "Yes, it is my night. I will stop Satan and the crowd will love me." Bo was flexing his muscles and posing styles often made by bodybuilders. He was truly feeling excited. The red light started flashing above his door. This indicated that it was time for Bo to go to the entry point where he would be presented to the audience. The twins opened the door and everyone rushed out and down to the elevator that would take them 3 levels up. Next to the elevators were very wide stairs that went the same distance. Esther said, "This is no time to go easy. Danielle and Tracy, you belong on each side of Bo. Day and I will follow. I think that we can easily climb 3 levels of steps faster than an elevator." "Bo," said Esther, 3 levels in under 18 seconds, starting now." Esther had won Bo's trust and respect. He took off like a shot out of a cannon. The twins, caught off guard, had to race to catch up. Esther and Day were on their heels. A man holding a television camera had witnessed the run and was recording it all. Quickly backing up, the cameraman filmed Bo reaching the 3rd level surrounded by 4 women. The camera caught his facial confidence and determination as he walked towards the Coliseum's entrance. The entire run had been shown on the large screens in the Coliseum. The fans loved it and went wild with applause. Bo stood at the entrance, just far enough back to be out of sight. Guards prevented the fans from entering where they stood. Besides, the fans knew this was the entrance used for the final match of the evening. If a wrestler was to walk into the stadium for the last match of the evening, then he would come through this entrance. The stadium was a total sellout. There wasn't an empty seat in the house, and the excitement was higher than ever. While Satan had gained great popularity, only Bo had ever challenged his skills, and he was the only challenger to walk out of the ring after losing a match. People wanted to see Satan in a match with a worthy opponent, and they were torn between who they wanted to win. But the match needed to be a challenge for Satan, and this is what most people believed Bo Jackson would deliver tonight. Esther and Day could hear Michael Wade in the stadium at center ring announcing Bo Jackson. But the crowd was so loud that they couldn't understand what he was saying. Bo Jackson stood at the center of the entrance with the twins on either side of him. Bo understood that once the rope was removed, it was time to walk out and make his appearance. The show would begin. Michael Wade was working the audience into a frenzy, promising the fans of W.O.W. the greatest match ever to unfold in the history of the W.O.W. As he told the timeline of Satan's victories, he reminded everyone that only Bo Jackson had walked away from the ring after wrestling with Satan, and now Bo Jackson was back and Bo wanted more of Satan. He wanted to end Satan's career tonight. Suddenly the stadium went black, and spotlights buzzed about like fireflies in the night, but magnified by 100. The lights finally focused on the entrance before Bo Jackson. The security guards removed the rope blocking entrance, and Bo started to walk to the center ring and the wrestling mat. The twins were close on each side of Bo and slightly behind him. They watched for overly zealous fans that wanted to touch him, that couldn't be allowed if Bo was to reach the mat in any amount of real time. Bo walked confidently towards the mat while the twins kept busy strong-arming his fans away from the aisle. Day and Esther walked a short distance behind the twins. Their job was to look good, prevent anyone from rushing from behind, and, of course, to balance out the entourage that each wrestler would have. The stadium had never smelled so strong of beer and brats. A very large number of people were buying the evening special, a $6 beer in a plastic W.O.W cup. The brats were another $4, and it seemed that nearly everyone wanted one. This was possibly the reason the night's crowd seemed a bit louder than usual and perhaps friendlier. Bo reached the ring and quickly walked up the steps to the wrestling ring. The twins had quickly gone before him. Outside of the ring and alongside the ropes, Bo showed off his biceps. As he smiled at the crowd, it seemed that he had suddenly won over every last fan. Once they saw his confidence, his smile, and his pumped-up arms, they went berserk. Everyone loved his attitude. They all admired not only his physique, but his confidence. Bo was looking like a champion. He felt it, and the crowd saw it. This just might truly be the night that Satan would go down and not come back up. The twins were standing back a bit more, giving Bo his well-earned spotlight. Bo would now have to address the crowd from the center ring. Instead of going through the ropes, Bo grabbed the top rope and jumped over the ropes. He had never done this before, and the crowd loved it. Bo continued to walk about the ring, flexing his biceps. Finally, Bo walked up to Michael Wade at center ring and took the microphone from him. Holding his left arm up, trying to quiet down the crowd, Bo started to speak. The crowd was yelling and applauding him so loudly that he gave up, smiled, and walked about the ring, his arms up and smiling at the crowd. The four girls remained alert to all possibilities while cautiously standing back as far as possible, without losing the ability to maintain their response time. Bo went to the center position again and held up his arms to calm the crowd down. He remained patient. After all, this was for him. "I want to thank all of you for this warm welcome," said Bo, smiling at the crowd and being very pleased with the night's beginning. More applause and yells came, and as they diminished, Bo again spoke. "You came to see a match against the strongest wrestler that the W.O.W has ever seen. And yes, I am speaking about Satan." The crowd did a lot of booing and yelling in favor of Bo. Again, Bo spoke. "Well, I am here to tell you that this evening's match will not be disappointing." The crowd again went wild, and Bo waited for them to calm down before continuing. "I know, as you do, most of you know, that Satan is only a man. He is a very strong man. Well, tonight he will be challenged by someone equally as strong and, let me say, a far superior wrestler. This is why if Satan stays in the ring with me, does not run away, I will leave here tonight the W.O.W heavyweight champion of the world." Bo had yelled out these words, and the entire stadium went crazy hearing them. Yes, the fans were floating on several beers, and yes, they were all caught up in a frenzy of mob action, but this is what the crowd had been waiting for. Man against Satan was a match that the crowd had never thought could happen to come pass with a favorable outcome until tonight. I'm going to stop there. That was reading 104. So until next time, take care and be safe. Thank you for listening.